Episode 42. This is the Inside Deschutes County podcast. Wherever you might be and however you might be listening, thank you so much for making us a small part of your day. You can subscribe to us on any podcast platform. You can also find us at deschutes.org/podcast.
Deschutes County is an amazing place to live,
work, and play.
Great place to raise a family.
I love the weather and the high desert.
At Deschutes County, we provide excellent service.
Beautiful.
We're here to help you.
Deschutes County is the heart of Oregon.
Everyone wants to be here.
I'm pleased today to welcome Jeff Sageser to this episode of Inside Deschutes County. Jeff is the recording supervisor for the county clerk's office. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Eric, for having me.
We're so glad you're here. Kicking and screaming.
All the way.
Twisting your arm down the hallway to get you in here. No, I'm actually, in all honesty, I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm not sure everyone realizes all the important historical work that's done behind the scenes at Deschutes County. And newsflash for anybody who's listening, you're leaving us, retiring. And so I wanted to have, congratulations on that, by the way. I wanted to have this conversation before you left us. So thank you for coming and joining us.
Well, thanks again, Eric, for having me. And you are correct. I am leaving the county after 26 years, almost 27 years.
That's a few years.
And just a few years behind us.
Just a couple of years. Well, congratulations on all that and all the hard work for over the course of your 26 years. And you know, everybody, when your name gets brought up, they're like, Jeff, the legend. In fact, you and I were just talking to Dave Doyle, the county attorney, and he was like, I knew Jeff before I even came to Deschutes County. So you're leaving quite the legacy.
Well,
how do you feel about that?
I'm not too sure.
All modesty.
Hopefully the legacy is warranted. I'm not too sure, but I guess time will tell.
Well, I don't think everybody, like I mentioned, I don't think everybody knows what the recording supervisor does. So why don't we just kick off the conversation and just kind of give us kind of a brief overview of the role and responsibilities of the recording supervisor?
Sure. It's a very good question. And in fact, I have kind of, as folks have retired in our office, it's one of the conversations that I have with new employees is the recording office is really a mystery to an awful lot of people. But I can maybe break it down into some simple things such as we do play a vital, important role in the community. The recording office or the clerk's office has been around here, of course, in Deschutes County since 1916 when the county formed. However, the recording offices and the clerk's offices really go back to the founding of our country, which is these documents that would come to the clerk's office would be cared for and made available for public inspection. The real property records, the deeds, the mortgages, the liens that would get filed, and then, of course, the clerk's office or the recorder's office also issues marriage licenses and passports. So, the foundation of the clerk, the county clerk, is really the custodian of the real property record. And by statute, we are required to keep that as a permanent record and make that available for the folks that want to know a little bit about those relationships that get formed in the community and those legal documents that folks get involved with.
I've been fortunate to get a little behind-the-scenes peek at some of these really old documents, and they're kept in a warehouse, and it's book upon book upon book. And for anybody who sees, the image of you holding one of these books, we'll have that on our social media for you to see. But if it's really cool because you open it and it's like a flashback in time, and you feel like, wow, I'm in Bend, Oregon with horse-drawn carriages, and it just takes you back. Can you kind of share what that room is like, what's in that room, and kind of what it makes you feel like when you go back and thumb through some of these old documents?
Yeah, great question. So you're absolutely right. The county does have historic records going back to 1916. Of course, we do have records that are prior to that period of time because the county split off from Crook County. And so we inherited some of those records as well. But so in the olden days, when folks would show up into town and they would record their important real estate papers, contracts, and deeds, and maybe mortgages, those kinds of things, they would record those in old books that we now have in county archives. And there would be a ledger. If you've ever gone into a museum or seen any kind of census tracts and so forth, there are names that are associated with events that take place in a certain period of time, and then there would be a source document that would be associated with that, and those are found in our county archives, and of course we've created microfilm, and even to today we've digitized those, so those records are really kind of kept out of the public's hands to kind of preserve the integrity of that old historical record. But it's like walking into a museum. If you have any interest in going to museums and so forth, these records are probably considered artifacts, if you will. But in the grand scheme of things, or as far as timeline is concerned, we're a pretty young county, only going back to 1916. And so, but in time, they will continue to age, and so we want to nest over those and care for those records as best we can.
It was so interesting because you unfurled one for me, and it was like you might as well have rolled out the Declaration of Independence. I mean, it was just like, and it just takes you back to history class,
It does.
and just like all the things that must have happened to get to where this community is today. You must take great pride in all of that.
Well, I certainly have. Just being here in Central Oregon, you just go down the street and you see these names that are side streets and so forth, and you see the folks that we see on paper and older documents, and you just know that the name of this particular street is probably associated with an early settler that came either from the Midwest or the East Coast, and they settled out here and they bought a ton of land, and that over time just became smaller and smaller pieces of property and was developed, and folks put in streets and they named them after folks that were here prior to us.
Man, it's I have so many questions. Let's get to. I'll get more into the history a little bit later. But what are some of the common type things you do today in the clerk's office? Because it's really almost like, okay, yeah, you preserve the history and everything that's gone into that, but then you have the today and everything that's done today. So what do you do today as part of your job?
So today, I'll just kind of walk around the office just a little bit and share some of the services that are provided to the community. Of course, we are also the elections office, and just finishing up the general presidential. We're putting that to rest and so forth. So don't want to overlook the importance that the county clerk provides to the voting public. But on the recording side, of course, we issue marriage licenses. So we see couples, that come from all over the countryside, all over the world to get married here in beautiful Central Oregon. And so we help them with obtaining a marriage license. And we also help folks that are in the traveling community that need to get a passport. And so we'll accept and review their applications. And so those,
Lots of paperwork involved with that, and
yep, lots of folks
filing all that.
Yep. And so on the recording side, so we review a lot of real estate transactions that are closing, people that are doing some estate planning. If they're, say, for example, moving property into a trust, or they, say, just got married and they need to add their spouse to the property, or if they had gotten a divorce, they would remove a spouse. If there are folks that are buying a piece of property, we would see real estate transactions involved with the banks that would be sending the mortgage document. So if they're borrowing money. So we see a lot of those documents on a daily basis, and they can come to us throughout the day. And so we're reviewing documents for certain legal elements that need to be on and present for the particular instrument that we're reviewing. So about 75% of those documents come to us electronically, so we're very, very paperless. Once those documents get recorded, we make them available for public inspection. We do have a website that we maintain, and those records go up, and many folks find their way to the digital research room to do records research, find out who owns a piece of property, see if there's any encumbrances such as easements or CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, kind of review the condition of title. So what we're doing is we're basically receiving documents all day long that are sent to us by attorneys, law firms, banks, title companies. So we have a whole host of folks that
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and so there are things that kind of impact our day, or our week, or our month, or year. For example, the Federal Reserve, I believe, just yesterday lowered the interest rate a quarter point. And so what that basically kind of hints to us is that people may be more accustomed to potentially enter into a mortgage or borrow money because rates have come down. And so
Here comes the work.
Here comes the work.
Yeah.
So you can kind of almost...
You're like, thanks for that.
Thanks for that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
thanks for making my day
So
a lot more hectic.
yes. So those are some leading indicators as to things that we look for at the, on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week, month-to-month. Other kinds of things outside of real estate and recording of documents would be during the summertime. We have a nice little, we consider a bell-shaped curve, is that as you can anticipate, during the summertime, people get married. So our workload increases quite a bit during the summertime, almost twofold.
So interesting.
And then also, as you can anticipate,
Travel.
travel. How about passports?
Right.
Folks, at the end of the
That
year,
makes sense, though.
it does.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
People are anticipating spring break. The cold has kind of hung around a little bit too long, and so during the holidays, folks come and visit our office to get passports.
You mentioned this briefly, and I want to dig into it. But what significant changes have there been in the recording over the years? Because you mentioned digital, and so I think that it's been super interesting to watch you go from here. You've got these books that have now made their way to. Like, how in the world did you scan and get all of those documents now in the digital space? And then, of course, transition your workflow to go from entering into these ledgers or, all the binding all these documents to now PDFs or web pages or however you do it.
Yeah. A great question. And so, Eric, when I started, we didn't have email. So that kind of, I guess, dates me. But Susie Penhollow, the clerk that hired myself, had a vision with respect to technology. She was early on to adopt a computer, a PC that allowed for some efficiencies, and that I believe happened in 1985. In 98, when I was hired, about 6 months later, we bought our first scanner. And so that turned on the light bulb with respect to, we haven't changed too much today. We still scan documents. I think probably many organizations today, for efficiency purposes, are just digitizing their records. Makes an awful lot of sense. So we started that in 1999. And so that allowed us to keep up with the daily work. There's been an awful lot of interest in Deschutes County, a lot of people moving here, population growth. And so the advent of the technology early on was sort of a saving grace. And so we embraced that very quickly and hard. And so that was the daily work. But we had over almost 100 years worth of records, as you mentioned, of those old books and microfilm. How were we going to convert that stuff to digital record? So what we did in a couple of occasions is partner with an outside vendor to convert some microfilm. But those old books, we opened them up, and when we had just a little bit of time, we scanned page after page after page. And somehow...
What are you laying them flat on the scanner and like doing it that way? Are you taking photo? I mean, like, walk me through that process.
Yep. Some of them had to be placed on the scanning machine by hand. We had a lift top scanner.
Yeah, I remember those.
And some had to be on copiers as well. And so there had to be some finagling of some of these records by size, because it was what was needed in order to capture a nice image.
Because these books are big,
heavy.
They're big, right? I mean,
20 pounds, 30 pounds.
Yeah, and for people listening to this, they're almost like 16 by 9 in dimension. Mm-hmm. They're very wide landscape. Mm-hmm. So just placing them on, that scanner you bought from Best Buy, probably not going to happen. So, I mean, almost, I imagine you probably used like an industrial type scanner. What kind of?
We did.
Yeah.
Yep. That was a large format scanner in order to capture the page or pages. I mean, there are many, many pages that we captured over the years. And so what we did is we basically just took one bite of the apple and just kept eating at the, I guess, take one bite of the elephant, and eventually, as the saying goes, that's how you eat an elephant, just one bite at a time. So, and then we had a bunch of content that was in digital form. And so it allowed us to see at a 30,000-foot view what kind of records are we really nesting over. And it really did create a good, clear picture as to what the county had in their possession and what was necessary in order for folks we wanted to try to get away from the physical environment for people to come down to the office and use microfilm reader printers and in lobby computers and pick up the old dusty books and that kind of thing. And so what we decided is what needed to be online and sort of facing the public that were most important to our customers, to the public. And so we built a digital research room that has basically kind of remained static, hasn't changed very much over the years. And so I think folks have enjoyed the consistency, the ability to land on a page and know that what they're looking at is what they looked at yesterday.
It's a super cool site. And maybe I'm just too nerdy about this stuff, but I popped in there when I first met you, and I poked around, and you can pick random. I think you can look by dates or you look by names. You could pick, Joe Smith, I think, and find, all the documents related to that name. And you're like, all of a sudden, you're just in this rabbit hole of like, what they did for a living, what documents they signed, where they got married, like all of that kind of stuff. And it's super cool. What I found interesting, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of it's in that old cursive writing that I don't want to speak for teachers out there, and I'm not in that world anymore of receiving education, but it's old school cursive that some of it's hard to even read for me who knows cursive. And what are your thoughts about that? Because cursive has also transitioned to typing, and that must be a change or a concern in your office.
It's a wonderful point that you bring up, Eric, and that is, you're absolutely right. I would have to say that in the United States, and of course no different here in Deschutes County, the technology that was used in order to capture the records that came to the recording offices, the county clerk's offices, the index that was created, it would be, for example, if you went into the public library, and if for those people that are old school and they went to the card catalog, and they pulled out the drawer and they were to look at an index card, that would be handwritten in cursive. What that tells you is that index card leads you to somewhere else in the library to find that book. Can you imagine if those records are not converted or somehow brought forward to current technology, and you were to only rely upon that cursive index card, and if someone is not able to read that cursive handwriting, you're not going to find that book in the library. So that is a little bit of a scary thought, that if we lose or break from the past, or if there's not enough, either technology is able to decipher the handwriting, and this is way outside of my comprehension, I do fear that some folks may lose or break from the past. They're unable to find records that are historic in nature. Genealogy is a small little group of folks that come to our office and are interested in, someone might have gotten a postcard, or they're stumbling across some folks maybe over the holidays that they have shared, and they found out that they were living in Central Oregon. We might get a call next week that is interested in knowing a little bit more about a piece of property that was in the family. We have to go back to old indexes that are handwritten. And I wonder if a job application in Deschutes County will require the ability to read cursive. And it's an interesting thought, and I don't have an answer for that. But it is something that is within our landscape and a concern.
Well, I have hope, that teachers and the school systems and education will continue to do that because of the link to the past, right? And it's not that I don't have faith in current generations, is that they can't read cursive. It's just, when you look back at these things, it's, you're reading it from olden days, and it's a little hard to digest sometimes, even for me.
Yeah.
I've thumbed through your archives and looked, and I'm like, man, that's a different kind of writing,
Yes.
and so I can kind of understand your concern because it is a link to the past and the history of Deschutes County. And you've had to preserve all of that. Have you stumbled on any kind of interesting documents over the years that you're like, man, that was pretty cool?
Boy, there's probably just so many that, of course, I can't think of anything right off the top.
Besides the original. Like
originals.
I think you showed me the original county.
Yep. The one thing that I didn't mention is that we preserve an awful lot of records that are coming down from the Board of County Commissioners. A lot of those things that are done before the board, resolutions, orders, ordinances, minutes, those records find our way down to our office because we're the custodian of those records, and we have to preserve them. They're a permanent record. So what you mentioned was, of course, the proclamation that was signed by the governor in 1916, December 13th, 1916, and that is our first Commissioner's Journal record. And that's preserved over in county archives.
And I think there's a copy of it in our lobby.
There is a copy in our lobby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's over by 97 Cafe, plug to them.
Yeah.
It's right over as you walk into the left-hand side. It's super cool.
Yeah. And I consider that our birth certificate.
Yeah,
County's
makes
birth
sense.
certificate. Yeah, that's when we were formed.
How do you see the role of archives recording evolving, if at all, over the next decade, 2 decades, generations?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can't think that far in advance. You're retiring, so you're thinking about other things. But, you've got a replacement coming in who's going to have new ideas, new visions, new thoughts, but also maintaining what has been done. How do you see it all unfolding?
2 things that I would probably say about sort of records management. Number one is records management, but just because you have the sheer volume and content, you don't want to. It's like being on a large shipping vessel. You don't move on a dime. It's just to move all that content, and so you don't want to be disruptive. Not only disruptive to internal organization, but also to the public and so forth. Once you change that, then it's just very disruptive. So you want to be conscientious. So records management, technology, and all that kind of stuff, even though technology is out there ever evolving and so forth, I think you have to be very conscientious of what you have and how you bring it forward with new technology. So just being sensitive and just maybe asking an awful lot of questions, and then just be informative of any change that might be to the community. So that would be the first thing. And then the second, and I think this probably touches everyone, I would anticipate, is the, how would I say it, the balancing between your personal privacy and then having access to the public record. And so the clerk's office is really mandated to be the caretaker of the public record, and how you share that information or how people get access to that record is moving forward. It's a balancing act. There are folks that are within our community that you can probably appreciate that we have records of DD-214s or a military discharge. We have sensitive information about their service record. We have sensitive information about a person's loved one who they just lost and have recorded a death certificate. So cause of death on that vital record that they've entrusted the clerk's office to have. And so these are going to be some of the concerns, I think, probably moving forward. It could be an occupation, it could be a teacher, or it could be, maybe a public employee, maybe a law enforcement officer or something like that, where they have records that are within the care of the county clerk's office, and they don't want that to be shared. And so we have to be receptive to, changing of legislation that might come our way, and how to handle those, in a careful way.
Lots to think about.
Lots
and lots to think about. I just think of all the documents and all the information and it's like its own superhighway. I mean, obviously we have the internet and everything that's out there. But this is kind of the beginnings of that. It's just everything is there. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Jeff, what's next for you? You've got to be thinking about something. Cooking? I mean, you're retiring. What's woodworking? Travel? What's next?
I'll put cooking on the list.
Okay.
As a busy person here at the county for many, many years and so forth, I think I haven't probably learned how to cook all that well over the years, and so I think I'm going to put that on the list. If anyone has any nice recipes or anything, send them my way.
There you go.
I'd be happy to
get some new hobbies in here.
New hobbies, yep. A little bit of maybe potentially some woodworking, and then also I've in the past before coming to Central Oregon into Bend, I was up in Seattle and I did a lot of backpacking and camping. And that might rear its head again, and
nice.
And but spend some time with family. I have a father here, in about 10 minutes from me, and hopefully I'll be able to spend a little bit more time with him, and then maybe travel a little bit.
Less thumbing through documents, more whittling.
Exactly. There you go. Very well put.
That's as close as I could get.
Yes.
Jeff Sageser, the recording supervisor for Deschutes County. Thank you so much for joining us and for all the work that you've done over the last 26 years.
Well, thank you, Eric, for having me, and it's been an honor and a pleasure.
If you'd like to visit the Deschutes County Digital Research Room, you can find all the historical information Jeff talked about by going to the clerk's office page and clicking on Records Research. That's at Deschutes.org. As Jeff mentioned, there are documents that go back to 1916 and even deed records that go back to the 1800s. Remember, you can listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to click the follow buttons, drop us a review, drop us a rating. We'd really appreciate it. You can also find us at Deschutes.org/podcast. But until next time, please be safe out there.